David Coulthard. At the end of the 90s, at the beginning of the 2000s, he won the love of some and the hatred of the rest, not quite a middle ground driver. Being a magazine and media name made it a name that is on the agenda even today. We can still meet him post-race when interviewing drivers or at Red Bull's stunts. Although not a champion pilot, there are a few stories to share about him when talking about the plane crash he experienced, his experiences with Schumacher, his comments about Turkey. But first, let's get to know who David Coulthard is. Coulthard was born on March 27, 1971 in Scotland. He came from a family involved in motorsports. This situation led him to meet automobiles at an early age. His grandfather was a driver who had competed in the Monte Carlo Rally. Also, his father is a former Scottish National League champion in the kart category. Apparently, his family wanted to continue this tradition from grandfather to grandson. Coulthard was given a kart tool by his father on his 11th birthday. Although his future seemed clear in academic terms, another option for him in life was to compete. He must have really loved the competition. Coulthard, who won all the local kart series that came his way, continued the competition in the United Kingdom. This is how David Coulthard describes the point of attraction. I've never had a passion for cars. For me, it was all about competition and winning. I tried other sports before karting, but I realized that I had good luck, especially in the race, and I went on that path. Coulthard tried to catch a performance curve by evaluating every race he participated in that period with a rating between 1 and 10. I've always been open to self-criticism and never gave myself the highest marks, even when I won the race, adds Coulthard. Perhaps the main point that made him different from his grandfather and father was that he was so open to self-development. It had now crossed the borders of Scotland and Britain. After his karting career, he won the Formula Ford Series, and the good results he achieved in the Formula 3000 Series started to open the doors of Formula One for him. After his victories in 1993, his next stop was Williams' test driver, which was the dream of many drivers at that time. Coulthard was announced as the reserve driver for Ayrton Senna and Damon Hill during the 1994 season. In May 1994, after Ayrton Senna's accidental death at the San Marino Grand Prix, David Coulthard had a tragic chance to race in Formula One. At the midpoint of the season, Williams switched to his car and managed to score points from the races he completed. Although the second place in Portugal was a good result for him, for the last 3 races, he handed over his car to former champion Nigel Mansell under pressure from Renault. He continued to compete with Williams throughout the 1995 season and got his first win this season. In 1996, he signed with another English team, McLaren, and became Mika Häkkinen's teammate. According to the McLaren tradition of the Ron Dennis era, there was no distinction between the first and second driver in the team at that time. Prost and Senna vs. Alonso and Hamilton are good examples at this point. There was a similar situation between Häkkinen and Coulthard, and we saw these two complete different seasons ahead of each other. But from the 98 season onwards, Häkkinen dominated the team a little more and started to struggle with Schumacher. By the way, speaking of the 1998 season, we should not mention the Belgium incident of Schumacher and Coulthard. As Schumacher laps Coulthard in the race in the rain, Coulthard slows abruptly on the race line. After Schumacher from behind touches him, his suspension breaks and the duo bids farewell to the race. Coulthard did not see him, although he says he slowed down to give way. We will never know the truth of the event. After all, Schumacher raids Coulthard's garage. He gave us an iconic moment that will be talked about for years. In fact, next year David Coulthard was at a pace to fight for the title. But when he was out of the race 7 times in the 16-race calendar, the championship was again entered into by his teammate Häkkinen. Although David Coulthard performed closer to his teammate in the coming years, he never got the opportunity to directly fight for the title. The fluctuations in his private life started to get in the way of his pilotage over time. One of the biggest turning points in his life took place in May 2000. Coulthard, who won the Silverstone race, chartered a private jet to Nice, France, with his girlfriend. The plane, which malfunctioned in the air, decided to make an emergency landing in the city of Lyon. But an accident occurred when the nose of the plane was too low during the landing. Coulthard, who jumped out of the plane during the accident, his girlfriend and his personal trainer managed to escape with minor injuries. But the 2 pilots who used the plane died. After the incident, first aid was given to the injured. Coulthard, who survived a major accident during the week, went to the Catalonia race a few days after getting doctor's approval to race. Second place with his solid performance in this race. Good story for someone who survived a major plane crash just a few days ago. I mentioned that he is a media player and likes to be in front of the cameras. Coulthard implied that he was defrauded by the Turkish company after he ordered a yacht to be built in Antalya in 2002 and the yacht was not delivered on time. He did not stop, so he said that if a possible Turkish GP is organized in the future, I will not participate in it. But, of course, it didn't come to a standstill and he competed in Istanbul Park for Red Bull in the 2005, and he continued to visit Turkey many times for different organizations. For Coulthard, the McLaren book was closed when Montoya moved to McLaren in 2005. He started with Red Bull Racing from this year and started to spend the most obscure seasons of his career. Although he took the podium in Monaco in 2006 and in Canada in 2008, for the first time in his career, he fell behind the top 10 in the championship standings. 2008 was his last season and his media and on-camera career that we still remember him started. After the 2008 season, the broadcaster joined the channel as an expert commentator. He also took on the role of brand ambassador for Mercedes. In addition to his commentary career, he continued to do stunts for Red Bull and still continues. After the Red Bull pilots contacted each other and had an accident in the 2010 Turkish Grand Prix, the positive aspect of this accident was actually a chance to advertise for Red Bull, and many people reacted. When we look at Coulthard's character, it seems like there are three different periods in his life. There is a man who was competitive early in his career, fighting even with himself to win. He struggled with champion names such as Häkkinen and Schumacher. The midpoints of his career are a stagnant period. He painted the image of a pilot who thought he was a top-notch driver but could never become a champion. This may be one of the biggest reasons why he left McLaren. With his transfer to Red Bull, it was as if the showman in Coulthard emerged. We'll probably continue to see him on screens and in a Formula One car. Unless, of course, Daniel Ricciardo, Red Bull's new stunt driver, knocks him out of his seat.